Big thanks to Ruben for sponsoring today's video via Patreon. Hashaton Scarab's Fist versus Adeline, Hashaton, and partners Vernog and Sophina. Well, we've got plenty of mana there, haven't we? So we're pretty much just after a discard effect into refilling our hand with Jingataxius, and if Jin stays in play, I'll be amazed. So let's just try this one. Another rock for us, so mana's not going to be a concern here. Go for a Surveyor land, I'm assuming we have in the list. There are on too many decks, so I can't remember where we've got Surveyor lands and where we don't. I've just noticed actually that this is a companion build over here, so yeah, I'm expecting a strong Hashaton list, but we've got, as I always say, twice as much chance to see a decent showing with Hashaton if there's two at the table. Undercity Sewers can look at the top card. Esper Sentinel, we can go Talisman into that, so keep on top. The more card draw, the better. And a Tri-land means that we can tap the Felwar Stone for white mana without taking a pain. 3-tree City, so I'm guessing that he cares about zombies a lot in this list. A Hideaway card from the token build, should easily be able to get the free spell out of that. So draw into the Esper Sentinel. We've got multiple means of course we were always going to see white mana for Felwar Stone from Adeline, although I could have played a colourless land. So at Felwar Stone and straight into the Esper Sentinel. Really good to be the first player in the turn order and get down Esper Sentinel quite soon, so when we see the ramp in the early game we're likely to draw a Vernog, Rider's Chaplain, and we ought to be saying no to this, so I'll say no and see what everyone else does. Yeah, one of them did, so gets 2 clue tokens over here. Hashaton gets 1 as well. A Merfolk Looter, so he's got his means of discard. And a turn 1 Serra Ascendant. Another Talisman for us, wow. So at this we'll see a Swamp and enter untapped, thankfully. So it can be 2 Talismans, tap the Talismans for mana into Hashaton, should be fine, and then just pray that we can actually discard something. Or do we just concentrate on getting down mana and hope the board isn't wiped of artifacts? I think that's probably a more intelligent play here, because there's nothing to stop us drawing into some kind of discard and then play out our Hashaton and do that next turn. The 1-2 swings in towards us, and then breaches Eager Pillager. Now I'm wondering if we want to have... See, the problem is we could have a creature die if we swing in with Esper Sentinel and someone blocks, and then connive onto our commander, but that means that Jingataxius would then have to survive an entire turn cycle, which it's not likely going to do. Plus we'd have to sacrifice our Esper Sentinel to do that. There is a Field of the Dead over here. Our opponent's managing to dodge the Sentinel so far. Cracks a clue token. Champion of the Parish, seeing lots of creatures. And Imposing Sovereign. Creatures your opponents control enter tapped. They would from us cheating in things like Jingataxius anyway. How far are we from just hardcasting this? This is 10 mana. Yeah, we're only on 7. So the 6-6 swings in at us, as you would expect. That might have to eat an Anguished Unmaking if they keep doing that. Okay, a Witch Enchanter could be a land. Am I going to regret getting rid of that? I think if the rocks get blown up, then we'll definitely want more lands, so just play this as a tap land, play our commander, and then we're holding up the connive just in case we're able to make use of it, and obviously the Anguished Unmaking as well. Ideally, if a creature died, it would be on this player's turn, so that we can play Jingataxius before our turn, but minimise the number of turns it's in play. A Grim Hireling, another creature. Not having the best of luck with this Sentinel. The 1-2 goes in down the middle, and yeah, 3-3 at us. Makes a treasure token with the breaches. Makes a couple of treasure tokens thanks to hitting. So Grim Hireling triggers and puts those tokens into play. And that was with first strike damage onto us, so makes another couple when this hits. This cares about each individual player being hit, so has 5 treasure available and decides to pass the turn. Draw and discard with the Merfolk Looter without his commander in play. His colours are not good at the moment. Discards a Rise of the Dark Realms and managed to get himself into a fetch. Noteworthy there's a Gravecrawler in the bin as well. Flowering of the White Tree. We'll see if our opponent finally allows us to draw off that. He has 1 mana left held up. And if he wants to hold it up, it'll be telling. Allows us to draw into Living Death, which won't necessarily be the worst. Maybe it's worth killing off the Esper Sentinel, because that will give us the chance with the Spy Master. And then we'll have Jingataxius in the bin along with Esper Sentinel, so if things get removed, then we'll be able to reanimate them now with Living Death anyway. Anyway, looks as though this is Human Tribal, as Champion of the Parish suggested. The 7/7 goes into the left. The 4/4 to the left, everything to the left, so we don't get a chance to block with the Sentinel anyway. And that encourages maybe some destruction over here, although in white it's likely to be exile. And Ink Shield prevents the damage, and that is a lot of Inkling tokens, so yeah, really lucky that he decided to attack over there. Esper Sentinel is going to draw us again though, at least. And a Champion of Wills is the discard we need, so yeah, the little human soldier did the work for us in the end. Got us 2 turns ahead on cards. So that is a bunch of Inklings and a Consecrated Sphinx, so now, are we just going for Living Death after all? We might have to, just so that we don't have to eat a bunch of Inklings. Yeah, I suppose we have to. So this is pretty obvious what we're looking to do, but we might get some blocks regardless. Let's go into the right. You might think that we're just trying to keep his life total down. Okay, does decide to block. We keep the Esper Sentinel. Once the Living Death goes off, that's good. Then decides to think better of it. And we're going to keep our Hashaton instead, apparently. Not much fussed either way. So no, you are not going back in the command zone. Just need to hope that there's no counter magic over here. And let's play Champion of Wills. Enters, we draw 2 and discard 2 thanks to the 2 power on that thing. So that gets us into lands. We get rid of the Sphinx and the Jingataxius. Going a bit overkill here, but hopefully it'll be alright. I think we can just tap down all our rocks, can't we? Although we might want to hold up swords or something. Maybe I'll wish we held up counter magic, so yeah, I'll go for Ancient Tomb here. So pray that this Living Death manages to get through. Mainly doing this, obviously, to get rid of all those Inkling tokens. Indestructible doesn't work. They'll still have to sacrifice their stuff, but they'll still have the Dauntless Bodyguard enter play, so they might as well do that. And so there is now a Gravecrawler in play over here. Vernog triggers, and we'll continue to say no to that. If our opponents want to crack clue tokens, then it's going to have to be into our Consecrated Sphinx. The white player said yes this time. 3 clue tokens, or 4 clue tokens in total over here now. And we will draw to Jingataxius at the end of the turn. So successfully refilling our hand. Do not have no max hand size at the moment though. So let's just see the back of a Plains. Bone Miser can just be reanimated, I think. And we're not going to pay the 3 mana because we can't afford it, but I wouldn't have done there anyway. Because again, we've got Consecrated Sphinx cards to draw now. And it might be that we're able to hold on to some kind of Arcane Denial or something like that. The zoom function has decided to stop working on Magic Online. They've changed that for some reason, where you just hover over with your pointer and it just automatically zooms. So I can't manually get it to zoom anymore, annoyingly. So cracking a clue will draw us with Sphinx again. And we still haven't got into a consistent means of discard, so yeah, this is good really. Exile a non-land permanent. I mean, Jingataxius has done the work already, but that's the one they have to get rid of if they want to keep cards in hand. It will exile it as well, but there's nothing we can do here, so just allow it. And there we go, that is a means of consistent discard. The Psychic Frog can put a plus counter on itself when we discard to it. Oh, the zoom's working now. Also, drew into Astral Dragon, so we can create tokens with this. And Avacyn, Angel of Hope, obviously gives Indestructible. A Cursed Marauder. Yeah, we just get rid of the Hashaton and maybe reanimate it with Animate Dead or Karmic Guide. I imagine they've got Merciless Executioner in the deck as well, so we'll have to try and start getting tokens with Field into play as soon as possible. We're only on 5 lands at the moment though, we need 7 for that. And then, yeah, our opponents still have their interaction, so Path to Exile onto the Sphinx gets us a turn ahead for the Field of the Dead at least. We'll definitely make use of that, grab an island, and we're Militia Captain. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more creatures, it transforms into a creature that generates more tokens. followed by a shared triumph. Yeah, that's just a human anthem. We draw into a Swords to Plowshares. So how do we want to go about this now? I think we definitely want the Sol Ring into play for obvious reasons. If the client wants to tap the mana. If there's misclicks here, then I apologise. It's been really weird with how it selects cards, and like I said, the zoom function has decided to stop working. We'll play Animate Dead onto our Hashaton, and then it will be 3 mana, effectively free for Frantic Search. We, with that, untap the lands before paying the cost on Hashaton, so that's a free activation on that, and then we'd have the mana to pay for it a few more times after that. So I wonder if instead we should leave our options open with a Psychic Frog, and then we can be playing at instant speed. In fact, the Lightning Greaves is probably an intelligent thing to get into play with that Sol Ring mana. Now, they could still kill off our commander by getting rid of the Animate Dead, but it's more difficult this way at least. So let's go field. That will hopefully dodge Edict effects. And then I think I do want the Psychic Frog in play here. And here we can just discard to hand size actually, can't we? So that we don't have to spend any more mana necessarily. Just hold up our interaction. Maybe I didn't put no max hand size in because we were able to do that. I can't remember now. Maybe there's no Reliquary Tower or Thought Vessel. So let's just make it Avacyn, discarded to hand size. And the Ret 2 Mystic is just a means of cycling, so I don't think we need that. I won't reanimate it. The first one on the stack is looking at Ret, the second one is looking at Avacyn. So say no, and then say yes to Avacyn, and that gives us a copy, making all of our things indestructible. And this way we're still able to hold up interaction, so that's good. Goldspan Dragon is a flyer with haste, so that can get through us. Although we can give flying to the Psychic Frog if we want to. We can exile any card from our graveyard for that. So it swings in at the human deck instead. Makes a treasure when he does it. Not seeing anything decent to copy with the Astral Dragon yet, unfortunately. Knight of the White Orchid will help fix some lands over here. Selfless Spirit can make things indestructible as well. We are far from winning this one. So the human player just decides to scoop it up on us. A bit closer to winning now. Luckily I was just thinking about I don't want to go for Frantic Search anyway on that turn cycle because I'd rather hold up the instant speed interaction. So instead, let's see about Chart a Course I think, and we can go for discarding the Karmic Guide to reanimate something. This is draw 2, and then we discard unless we've attacked, which obviously in the first main phase we haven't yet. A Gleaming Overseer can keep our token Avacyn from being targeted. We can hardcast that though, so let's discard the Karmic Guide as we were always intending to, and pay the tax on that. So that enters tapped as a 4/4. It won't survive through the next turn cycle though, I don't think. We can reanimate the Karmic Guide just for the fun of it, and then when that enters it can trigger again. Let's go for the Bone Miser so that can start looking at discard stuff. Don't think Bone Miser's the best in this, it's a bit win more, but we'll see how it performs here. Might have to cut it. So let's go Gleaming Overseer in that instance. I still want to be able to hold up the Frantic Search and the Anguished Unmaking if we can. So that will give our tokens Hexproof and Menace, so we won't be able to, or our opponents won't as easily be able to get rid of the Indestructible. Let's also throw out the Rhystic Study here, and it'll have to be the Hallowed Fountain in tapped because I'm wary of the amount of pain mana that we're taking here. Triggers Field of the Dead again, and these tokens are given Hexproof and Menace as well. So now it's time for us to start doing some attacking. Could have given something haste I suppose, but I want to keep my commander in play. When we hit with the Psychic Frog we are going to draw a card here as well. So that will knock our opponent down to 33. We get into some more spot removal, which is good. We can discard into that as well, which might mean that we can keep hold of Frantic Search for a bit longer. Reckless Fireweaver. That is whenever an artifact enters, ping us. So could be pretty scary with all the treasure and clue tokens. Pays into the Rhystic Study tax. And then it is a Deadly Dispute. I don't want to be taking any damage to this thing to be honest. But maybe we just have to take it for a cycle. Draws us into another rock in the Arcane Signet. Yeah, we'll just take the 2 damage here I think. Or it's just 1 damage, they only make 1 treasure to that. I'm assuming Goldspan is going to be swinging in though. The dragon swings in to the right again, so he's going to make a treasure. We'll have 4 mana available and 4 cards left after this. Obviously pings us with the Fireweaver. Vernog into play again. So we'll see if they get clue tokens. They shouldn't be as worried about that now that the Consecrated Sphinx is gone. I think it's time for us to start looking at getting rid of this though. So maybe we have to go Frantic Search, and we can just not discard a creature into it maybe. Or not one that we care about reanimating anyway. So Frantic Search will untap the colours that we want to hold up. We drew... yeah, Polluted Delta's nice, so we can get rid of Arcane Signet. Ghostly Pilfer is hopefully fine to get rid of. Might regret getting rid of that though. Ledger Shredder can get pretty big is the thing, but I'll regret getting rid of Ghostly Pilferer if the frog goes down. So we will untap Undercity Sewers, a couple of other jewels as well, and then that is a zombie, and we draw a card with the Bone Miser. And then we've got the option to reanimate the Ledger Shredder if we want to, which we're not going to do here. Alright, Massacre Worm is going to unlock the game for us. So it has to be Swords to Plowshares here, onto the Fireweaver. Then we can still maybe hold up Counter Magic if we just so happen to get into it. So making some more artifacts there, but we don't get pinged by them at least. It's funny, I never noticed that the artwork for the Psychic Frog actually looks decent when it's tapped as well. You can barely just see it there with that small artwork. Assuming you're not one of those weirdos that taps anti-clockwise, that is. Anyway, there's a clue token. Had the Fireweaver had 2 toughness or less, we obviously could have gone for reanimating Massacre Worm there and it would have wiped out this stuff as well. But we definitely wanted to see the back of that, so had to be swords there. And while this player's struggling on colours, I'm hoping he can't just exile everything. He might have Toxic Deluge, wouldn't be the worst. He wouldn't have to take too much life to that. Marionette Apprentice. These are the effects that could help get rid of us. There was talk of the other Hashaton player scooping it up, and we've just been talking to him and encouraging him not to. Because, like I said before, this game is far from over. The other guy quit way too early, as people tend to. They're at a reasonably high life total still over there. We're not necessarily winning this one. Oversold Cemetery then. That is at the beginning of your upkeep. You get a creature back. What have they got? They've only got Gravecrawler and Merfolk Looter. They could play Gravecrawler at any point from the bin if they wanted to. Might be useful with the Selfless Spirit though. We do get to draw with the Study. There's a Cyclonic Rift. Just to rub salt in the wound for our opponents. I'll try not to play that one. I think Massacre Worm is going to be eye-rolling enough for them as it is. And don't forget we do lose these 2 creatures when our upkeep rolls around. I'm not going to pay the echo cost on those. Although Astral Dragon copying that Oversold Cemetery might not be the worst, especially if we get multiple copies of it, which we will. So we'll say no to these. Might be worth copying the Oversold Cemetery sooner than later, because if he scoops, obviously there'll be no permanent to copy anymore. And a Careful Study, we're just getting into everything we need straight away here. Play Polluted Delta and should be able to grab ourselves a... yeah, should be able to grab ourselves a dual land with that. Make that a Tundra. Triggers Field of the Dead both times. And we'll play the Careful Study. I'm just going to do this during our turn. Yeah, we've even got Agadeem's Awakening there, so let's get rid of the Astral Dragon and the Massacre Worm. Massacre Worm isn't legendary, so the more we return it to hand with something like Oversold Cemetery, the more we can discard it. Good habit to put Hashaton on the stack first before Bone Miser, just in case you make some mana, but we're discarding creatures to get creatures here. So say yes to both of these. Massacre Worm enters, -2/-2 on all our opponent's stuff, and that will take out a bunch of creatures. And when it does, there's pings from Marionette Apprentice, which is still in play over there. And we're down to 14. Say no again to the Investigate for Vernog, and both of them make a clue to that. We will say yes to Hashaton again, and this time it's Astral Dragon, copying the Oversold Cemetery. So now we get a couple of creature token copies of that, while we've got a decent number of creatures in the bin. So we're just holding up our mana here. We could even afford, Cyclonic Rift if we wanted to be really obnoxious. So we'll turn everything into the left. We've still got flying indestructible blockers held up, and we've got a means of instant speed discard as well. We draw a card to the frog. When it hits, knock our opponent down to 12. There's a Scourge Familiar. I think it might be worth getting down the Ghostly Pilferer then, just in case they deal with the frog, because then we'll still have the Rift held up, and we might get some card draw from the Pilferer as well. We are down to 10 here, and apparently finishing off the game is a difficult task for us. Maybe Moonshaker Cavalry in the deck or something like that would be useful. Try not to use Crater Hoof effects because we've all seen them a million times, but anyway, swings in with Goldspan Dragon. That has dealt a lot of damage to our opponents for us. They have to do that in order to get the additional mana they need though. Now what we could do is wait for the damage step and then Cyclonic Rift and get rid of the treasure, assuming that you can't do anything at instant speed. Have to be careful targeting this because so that knocks him down to 19. And there is a Monumental Corruption. Target player draws X and loses X, where X is the number of artifacts you control. Okay, so this is where we pretty much have to go for Rift. They've got 5, 6, 7, so that'd knock us down by 3. Or knock us down to 3, I should say. And I think we just have to do it really. It opens us up to not being able to do anything in response to our opponents, but I mean, this is all we can do anyway really, apart from some spot removal. So prepare to roll your eyes into the back of your head, everyone. It's been one of those games for them. Cracking a clue token, he might as well on the way out. Ha, red Elemental Blast, so he had something for it anyway, but... Oh, he must have just drawn into it, of course. Yeah, that's pretty lucky that he had the mana held up for it. It's unlucky that he didn't draw into it sooner, though. Let's see what we draw. This would be funny if it was a Fierce Guardianship or something, but instead it is Nezahal, speaking of card draw. So we get to draw 3 here at least. Our opponents might still be able to get us with the Marionette Apprentice now that we can't blow that thing up. We go down to 7. Angel of Ruins and an Ashen Rider. That is more stuff for us to reanimate, but we don't have the mana to do it now. Oversold Cemetery, see if they can get anything relevant with this. We've already seen the Looter and the Grave Crawler. They have Selfless Spirit, Knight of the Wild, Knight of the White Orchid, and the Marauder. And it is the Marauder. I think they choose at random with this. Oh no, it's not at random, you can choose. The Marauder won't necessarily do too much for them. Probably just give up on the Bone Miser at this point. Does have to be non-token with that. Well, there's something that can die to the Marionette Apprentice. A land into Field of the Dead gives them a token. Ashen Rider can exile lands, which is noteworthy. So plays the Accursed Marauder, see if he allows us to draw. We are allowed to draw into the Study off the zombie, so there's Ravenous Chupacabra. Our opponent gives up, so Terrax is thrown to the wolves by both opponents who, if they'd stuck it out, probably we would have been gone. We're teetering at 7 life, all we do is turn in sideways here. We do get to play with this Oversold Cemetery though. So let's go Karmic Guide, and we'll just go for the Champion of Wits, because those are cards that we don't mind hard casting. And then we draw into another Champion of Wits anyway. So let's turn everything in sideways, not going to waste my opponent's time. As ever, Terrax giving us a hell of a game. Yeah, like I said, we can always rely on Terrax at least to be able to give us somewhat of a full game. This is probably by far, I think this is by far the best game that we've seen with Hashaton. It's taken a good few weeks, maybe over a month to see it, but we all know how good this commander is anyway. Windmill slamming in a quick Consecrated Sphinx and Jingataxias is probably going to unlock the game for you. And I don't think we saw a single board wipe all game either, which probably helped us out a lot. Anyway, if you want to continue to see Hashaton gameplay, it's by far the most popular commander in recent memory. If you want to continue to see the gameplay, then let me know in the comments section as ever. Massive thank you to the patrons, including Terrax, for helping out financially. You can do so yourself via the link in the description below. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.